So today we are talking about sexual objectification of women. And
you know how many songs are out there talking about, I remember this one from one of our musicians band. It was called Shake It.
yeah,
Yes.
And then you wonder, what is there to shake if it is not the booty?
yeah,
And as Uncle G was just speaking, I realized we have 1, 2, 3, 4 subjects, like people in this room, and a couple of objects. And
yeah,
all of us may be beautiful in our own way,
Yeah.
so we treat each other with respect, we let each other talk, but this table here is an
object.
object.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a beautiful table.
Yes.
I'm using it as an object right
Yeah.
now.
This is the perception that we have about women, that they are mere objects.
Yeah.
Mere objects.
Any man, any woman, any child, any old man, any gay, whatever, we all objectify. We objectify the moment you open your mouth to say to somebody else, you are beautiful, you are pretty, you are handsome. You are objectifying. Because when we say you are handsome, talking to just another man or what about it, when you say you are handsome, you are looking at that person and looking at them as an object that pleases you.
And many relationships, number one, when I say relationships, I'm talking about intimate relationships, boyfriends and girlfriends, and you know, even into married people's lives. It goes into homes. Today we have all these relationships broken.
Yeah.
Broken because of objectification.
Have a double check, like how would it look like if the tables are turned?
Turned,
Yes.
absolutely.
Do I still feel comfortable? Then it's cool doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Do I not feel comfortable? Maybe I should stop it.
Absolutely.
Or change it.
yeah. Good day and welcome to What We Men Get to Talk About, a platform for you as men and women to engage with social issues that affect you. We'd like for you to comment, to also share this video, and also share your views. Maybe if you've gone through something same or similar, to use this platform of Regain Trust to also share as well. I'm joined by a panel of men as we get to engage on sexual objectification of women. Now, gentlemen, would you just introduce yourselves? Starting with Abisai.
Yes. It's good to be here again. My name is Absai Kashululu.
Yeah.
I'm from Women's Action for Development, and I'm the National Training Coordinator. So it's good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
James?
Hi, Adriano. Good to be here as well. So I'm the director at Regain Trust. My name is James Itana.
Ben?
My name is Ben Janik. I'm a social worker and a mediator, and I'm also a volunteer facilitator for the Alternatives to Violence project.
Thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. Now, last week we had a key focus on the sexual objectification of women. This program is proudly brought to you by Regain Trust, Men Engage, Men Namibia Network, as well as the United Nations Population Fund. We also had Uncle G, who unfortunately could not be here today. And in his words, he said that men and women tend to objectify sexually on each other. So, gentlemen, let's dive directly back into it. Our discussion last week, sexual objectification. From your understanding, can we just have a recap from you, Abisai, in terms of what you took from last week's conversation?
Well, I took quite a number of important aspects on the topic of sexual objectification. And you see, just like the title, when you say she's a nice piece of meat, you were talking about Uncle G.
Yeah.
I like the way he put the example of shake it. You see, because it took me back to the analyzation of the whole entertainment sector, and then it's a clear picture. Everybody really sees what happens in the entertainment sector, whether it's with music videos, whether it's with lyrics from the artists themselves, how they portray. And when I'm talking about lyrics of artists, I'm talking about both male artists and female artists also. And then you come back to the movies that everybody watches.
Yeah.
We have movies, and these are movies for adults, let's say. And you also have other networks like cartoons.
Yeah.
You see, and this is a big problem that I also have, that there are so many harmful cartoons that are also carrying the message of sexual objectification of women.
Yeah.
And that's why I just in the passing just like to mention that as parents we should be careful of allowing our children to change the channels as they wish at home.
Yeah.
And also I think we should learn to also choose what our children should watch at home. So I think from the entertainment part, it was an outstanding point, and everybody could definitely
contribute and elaborate
contribute
on
to that, because I think I mentioned something about even the billboards
and
even
the secretaries at offices.
even at offices.
Absolutely.
And I also like Ben's. You see this Kapua table. The way he
The
described
object, which
the
is
object.
definitely the table.
That's we call that. It's logic. This is what happens.
Absolutely.
It's what happens, and there needs no further explanation about the demonstration that he actually did last week.
Yeah, Abisai, thank you. James, from your side?
Sure. I mean, I'm glad to be
You've
here.
seen it, and thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
I think, there were a lot of things that came out from the previous conversation. And I think it led me to a process where I started to think about, myself and how, as men, we are living in a society where we are taught that it's normal to sexually objectify women.
Yeah.
And, it's something that I have been dealing with on a regular basis to try and sort of change and challenge my mind view around how do you view women.
Yeah.
When you see a woman standing in front of you, what is it that you see? You see her, sort of body parts that are being accentuated, and we're taught that, as men, that when you are objectifying a woman, you look at her breasts, you look at her buttocks. You then start looking at, the shade of her skin. You start looking at her hair in terms of how she looks like, and all of that, and her feet, and all of that, you're sort of doing it in a sense of, you're now starting to sexualize her as this thing or as this object with whom you can have sex with. And oftentimes, as a man, you would walk out there and literally constantly, every time you see a woman, you sort of excite yourself and you think about, I wonder what it would be like to have sex with her.
Yeah.
Oh, she has big buttocks. It must be very interesting to have sex with her. And literally, in doing so, this person ceases to become a human being. They are no longer a human being.
Yeah.
They are literally just this piece of meat that you have the entitlement to
use as an
wanting
object
to sort of enjoy and for your own fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And I think for me, what I've learned and realized is that teaches us not to have very meaningful sort of interactions with women. We have, as men, we are taught to have very shallow interactions with women where what's on the inside doesn't count. What matters is what's on the outside.
Absolutely.
And that obviously has its risks and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, James. Ben, recap from last week from your side.
Yeah, I think in reflection of last week, what I found most interesting was that a lot of conversation with female friends that I had were very appreciative about men having this conversation, and they're like, yes, I want to listen into it. I want to, because it is real for them, much more than I would have thought before, so to say. And the second afterthought that I had was about my own childhood and upbringing, and how common it was that you just have sexual, not sexual jokes, but sexist jokes that really put women into a particular role or make jokes about it, and exactly how we kind of started looking at women as young boys, and that I only in my mid-20s basically had a turnaround, or not a turnaround, but like a realization that there is so much more to sexuality, to being a man, to being a woman, to that. So it's almost
Absolutely.
like I was in a little box that I was growing up, and then all of a sudden I realized there's a whole world around it, and I'm still learning a lot. I like what Uncle G said about the mutual objectification, or
Yeah.
if you say something to a woman, how would it be if that woman
Say
would
it the
turn it
same.
around and say that to you?
Absolutely.
If you're feeling comfy, then it's fine. If you're feeling uncomfortable, well, maybe the ball is in your court
Absolutely.
to change it.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to dive directly into it, and I'm going to ask James as well. Now, can you share some of your personal experiences, especially when it comes to the sexual objectification of women? Well, I'm asking you this, you've just brought up something now where I believe as society we have normalized this outer look of women as opposed to internally, because Ben brought that up last week as well, is that we have this focus of shake it, that it's rather shake your booty and shake this, because what else can you shake? You can't be shaking a brain. You know, that's what Uncle G said. You know, have we normalized this as a society? And maybe just share your personal experience with that as well.
You know, for me, it's been a very long history where you are literally being trained from as young as you being a toddler that, you know, you need to sexually objectify women. I remember and I recall that, you know, I think I was probably somewhere 8, 9. That's the first time I was, you know, thrown into a room with older boys who somehow managed to get a VH tape of porn. And I recall as a child how I was traumatized and literally had a headache because of what I was seeing there. And also the sort of reactions that, you know, these older guys had in terms of man up.
Yeah.
These are things that you need to learn now. This is what is happening. And sort of like a very unfair exposure for me as a young child to have to see that. Yet, you know, going on, there was a reinforcement that was playing out there, you know, amongst my peers and especially amongst the older sort of either brothers and cousins and so forth, trying to teach you that, but that's the world that we're living in, and then that's what you need to do as a man.
Yeah.
And then I remember, sort of in my teenage years, I sat and I watched this movie. I think I even spoke about it on my Facebook page. It was a film about a mermaid, and this mermaid came out of the ocean, and she was completely naked, and my jaw dropped to the floor. I literally had to peek and see, is my mom seeing what I'm seeing right now? And you know, it was interesting how this film was sort of accentuating certain parts of this woman that was now coming out naked. And obviously, as a young man, it's very arousing to see that. And then, you know, then you realize, oh my God, this is what I'm seeing right now, so this must be the norm. And literally, I think what played out for me was that I started to learn that, you know, when you're looking at a woman, you are predominantly looking at her from that perception of, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have sex with her?
Yeah.
And you become completely preoccupied with sex. I remember conversations, you know, in even in a classroom setting, you know, where you would sit and there would be your teachers, and, you know, as boys, you're going through a process of puberty, you're starting to, you know, have erections in the class, and you pray away the erection before the bell rings, because should you stand up, should you dare stand up, you'll be exposed.
Yeah.
Yet you sit in that classroom, and literally as a young boy, all you're looking at is, you're not seeing the girls in the class for who they are and for the contributions they're making throughout the lessons that you're being taught. You're literally trying to figure ways out to see the body parts. And you literally also become a peeping Tom, because you know, you had instances where girls would wear skirts. So, you know, and we would sit in a particular corner where we can have the best view, and then we'll tell each other, it's a pink one, no, it's a red one, no. Those types of conversations. Literally what we're doing there as young boys, we're literally objectifying those our classmates who are our peers. So I think for me, it's been a very long journey where throughout all of my experiences, I literally was taught to sexually objectify women. And even later on in life, I mean, when we were at university, that's what we were doing, walking around in the corridors, and if you see a woman, you felt that level of entitlement that I must give her a compliment. And the compliments we gave were literally based off of her body parts.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, you have a bright future behind you, which is a lyric that I've heard.
Yeah.
Um,
So would you
I
want?
like,
Would
I like the
you
way
ju-
you walk
yeah.
it, you know, types of things.
Exactly.
And we literally called out women for that. And only now you start to realize, but what the damage it has done to myself.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll talk about it at some later point.
Yeah.
But then I literally learned that what we are being trained to do as young men is we are literally being taught and trained not to be able to relate to women at all.
Yeah.
That ability to relate is
not
destroyed.
there. Yeah.
Yet later on in life, you are then expected to have a relationship
With
with
said
a
woman. Yeah.
But for as long as you objectify women, can you really have a meaningful relationship?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Ben, on your end? Your
Well,
personal experience, because I love what James has
Yes.
touched on, and especially because he's such a broader line in terms of the pornography, and I think porn is
Yeah.
something that we as a society deem not to talk about as well. And when you see it and look at porn, sexual objectification of women also happens in that, because one would then deem that is your perfect woman.
Yeah.
You know?
And it brought me back to my own experiences. I mean, it wasn't the mermaid in a comic cartoon, but it was, like those catalogs where women are presented in underwear. So I think that was for me kind of in my early teenage years or whenever. That was my inspiration for masturbation. So kind of like to see that and to try to get behind that. So there is, I think it's quite, what is it, poisonous or toxic, because as young people we have a normal curiosity, and there's nothing wrong with being curious. We need to be curious as human beings and stuff. But to be made curious about with that attitude of I conquer, I can get access to that. I think it's also something where our morals play in, where we are being told sexuality is such a taboo, you're not allowed to talk about it. So that's a kind of a double toxicity where you're not allowed to have an open conversation about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get the message that you need to get this. And this is not, you're not being trained to say, look, have a relationship and explore curiously what level of depth this human being has to offer. Like you may just see somebody in the streets and you're not asking yourself, what is she studying?
Yeah.
Where is she
But whose
working? What is your family
responsibility
like?
is it,
But
if I
you
may
look
just
at
ask that? Whose
features.
responsibility is it in essence?
I feel at the end of the day, it's my personal responsibility. But of course, there are so many factors that influence me that I'm not even aware of.
Yeah.
And to bring that, one of the change points that I had in my 20s was that as a young man, I think at 17, 18, I started dating and realized that it's a very fascinating thing to have sex and so forth. So we had lots of what we called friends with benefits, where you wouldn't really have a fixed relationship, but kind of just play around, have fun, do all kinds of things. And I had that a lot until I was about 24, 25. And then a friend of mine invited me to join her in doing a massage therapy training. So it was a 3-month course. Every day you do yoga, you do meditation, you do anatomy, you do massage, classical massage, muscles, and so forth.
Yeah.
So, and that was when I realized that what I did in those past 5-6 years, by meeting women, having sex, actually what was behind it was my need for touch, just to be touched, be held, be comforted, and that's a level of intimacy that I wasn't told exists, and that's what I found quite shocking. So yes, it's my ultimate responsibility, but I wasn't even exposed to something just as like massage, as touch, which kind of, I felt like, wow, after receiving a massage in that training period sometimes, I felt like, wow, this was so satisfying for me. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
But I know that as a young man, I was looking for sex to just satisfy that sense of touch or comfort or closeness. So I feel this is where we as society need to provide much more than just a pornography view on sex or not talk about it at all.
Yeah.
But I was even thinking, I was actually offering it with a colleague here in Namibia at one hostel, just a massage training. And you don't have to get naked for it, but it's just kind of like, can you have your arm? but just like, how do you massage somebody?
Yeah.
And you know the muscle parts, whatever, and it's a comforting feeling, and it's kind of bringing
Should've
people.
stopped, it must be-
Yes. So how you get just that. And
Yeah.
there's nothing sexual about it.
Absolutely.
But I think this whole taboo that we put around
And
it is that-
perception,
that
yeah.
even that touch, like that could be a strain here, and there are different techniques you can apply and so forth. Or the funniest thing is actually this one.
Yeah.
So there's so much fun you can have actually with a body beyond the sexual thing, and that is
Yeah.
also something where you relate in a totally different
Forms of intimacy.
way.
Yeah.
Intimacy, it's a connection, and so forth. And I feel this really expanded my box, as I
Yeah.
was saying before.
Yeah.
And I feel this made me a greater human being, and it allows me to see more facets of another person.
Absolutely.
And still, there are traps that I'm still caught in today. So, yeah.
So before we get into all of those steps in terms of how you did that transformation, obviously, please share your experience in terms of your journey with sexual objectification of women.
Yes. Well, we are very common indeed. And, the colleagues, the way they expressed their experience and what they went through, it boils down to the same thing. So I will not go that far because they already touched that part because it's really just the same thing. But just maybe to add some missing parts is that for me personally, and I would like to start with the words I used last week, that I was in the little box until last week when I got this topic.
Yeah.
And it goes back to me looking back in the years that you see, because of sexual objectification, I've realized that my attitude on choosing women, it was based on that.
Yeah.
It was based on sexual objectification because I wouldn't just get any girl. I'm now talking about when I was much younger, when I was still at school. You see the type of competitions we used to have, even just to compliment maybe a group of 4, just to to whistle or to just to say hello, and who is going to be greeted, who will be
First,
celebrating that. It's a whole sort of training that actually a person goes through. So I remember that my attitude on choosing a woman in my past, I would look at like it was described by James. And remember, some of these things are also cultural. Some cultures you are told that you don't take a woman with this type of shape of legs or this type of this shape of toes or whatever. They actually put a description of a woman, a woman's appearance who is accepted by society, and based on that, it becomes an implant in a person's mind. So I used to do it. I look at all those features, and then I think one of the colleagues mentioned the color part. The color part, and it's so many. And in conclusion, really, it's discriminatory. I've been discriminating against women also. And I want to take it a little bit further that this did not just apply to the shape. It also applied to the type of clothing. You see, the type of clothing that shows cleavage, that really attracts you because I think we'll be talking about this a little bit later about treating women as trophies because everybody wants to be with something beautiful, something attractive. We want other men to be jealous of us. I want to show off that I have this trophy with me. So it's not even only about the shape, but also the clothing and all these things. And you know what? These things, even I carried this type of mental attitude, even into my marriage,
Yeah.
for example.
And maybe just a question on that. Do you think that within relationships and within marriages and with our sexual partners that we tend to objectify them as well?
We do that all the time, because that's why I'm mentioning that I want to take it from the time when I was just a boyfriend, you know, to this girl or that girl. But now, even after getting married, I would still be concerned how my wife dresses. I would still be, you know, one thing I forgot is that we also the type of walk.
Yeah.
I believe we all know about what we used to call what is called the catwalk.
Yeah.
You see, and women precisely also know how to develop this catwalk thing.
Yeah.
And that really, it influences men's perception on approachability and all these things. But to be honest, I have realized that I've been discriminating all my life. I've realized that, you know, I've been trained from young, like, I like the words he used, like exposure. In a black community, you can never talk openly about sexual topics with parents, meaning that we were never educated on sexuality. We were taught sexuality on what was exposed to us. And mind you, one of my colleagues also mentioned, you see, the exposure or the different techniques that we use to make a plan to get that catalog, to make a plan to have data to download porn, you know, just to make a plan to expose yourself.
Yeah.
And because of this, I realized that we were trained that a man and a woman cannot have a relationship outside a sexual relationship.
So
you will
the
be
sex
told,
had to be part
yes,
of
because
that, absolutely.
for me and you, we are men. We have many things in common. We can play soccer together. We can go drinking together. We can what together. But what about a woman? What type of relationship would I have with a woman?
Yeah.
If I become, so this already also discriminates when it comes to choosing friends. I cannot choose female friends, because the moment I have a female friend, I'm already labeled that we have something going on. And if I tell my male friends that there's nothing happening, then they will be calling you names that, hey, you are useless,
Yeah.
good for nothing. How can you, a woman with, what are you doing? You're
What are you
wasting
doing?
your opportunity. She wants you.
Yeah.
No, can't you see even the way she looks at you when you talk? At the end of the day, as men, we were not trained to have any other type of relationships with women but sexual relationships.
Absolutely.
And this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my wife last week when I came from here, and I said, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the different things you might not have realized. But I think I went through transformation that I've realized that I've been discriminating. At times I will tell her, no, take out that dress, put on this one. Because, so at the end of the day, it's no more about her comfortability as to wear the type of dress that way with which she feels comfortable with. So it's about me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how that places you. James,
Yes.
you wanted to add on that?
Maybe just to add, I mean, I like his analogy of explaining how men are sort of socialized to pursue this idea of a trophy
Yeah.
in a woman. And one of my experiences has been, once you've acquired this trophy, the very things that you used to sexually objectify this trophy about are now the things that you're now trying to get rid of this trophy.
Yeah.
Like the trophy shouldn't, you were drawn by the fact that she wore
Looks.
a miniskirt.
Yeah.
And that you're able to sort of sexualize her
Yeah.
thighs, and that drew an interest, so you got the trophy. And now when you have the trophy,
Yes.
you are now overly guarded in terms of, this trophy cannot wear that miniskirt anymore because I need to control it so that other men
People, yeah.
cannot come and take the trophy away from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of coupled with this concept of entitlement that is now my trophy and I must protect this trophy and not lose it, because should I lose this trophy, it literally plays out to my ability as a man.
Yeah.
Becomes questioned. And I think oftentimes, you have that with men, that the very, the way that we're sexually objectifying women, once we enter into these relationships with these women, we then become insecure.
Yeah.
Because we're worried about the things that I had used to try and draw that trophy were through, the house, the car, perhaps, my status and my stature in society. And I know for a fact that there are other men out there who are doing much better than I am. Now I'm competing with other men to try and protect this trophy, and by doing that, I must now become very protective. And the protection is not so much that I fear losing this trophy, but it's this issue around this trophy is now starting to expose my own insecurities that I have, and that often leads to situations of violence.
Absolutely.
And I think, I mean, as I like, a lot what Upside was saying around, having that conversation with your partner to realize that, I've been socialized to view her in a particular way, and it is so limiting that it would, if I were to continue moving in this path, it would limit the types of conversations that I would be having with my wife.
With your wife, absolutely.
It would limit my ability to genuinely get to know my partner beyond, her body, beyond her looks.
Absolutely.
And imagine the damage and the harm that I would be doing to my wife because I would constantly require of her to look in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now my wife she's gotten pregnant, she's given a child, body shape changes. What does that then mean for my desire for her?
Yeah.
Does that then change? And what do I then do? Do I then lose interest in her and go and look for another person that I need to go and sexually objectify to meet my little ego? And
Absolutely.
I just feel, in that sense, for me, it's the greatest injustice
That
we're doing towards ourselves and towards women.
Absolutely. Ben?
Yeah. No, I just want to add
Echo,
onto this because we also, I think it's about really relating to women from human to human.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the one piece that we are kind of talking about but not going into, and I kind of am tempted to go into it, is the actual sex or sexual, sensual relationship. Because the one thing as young boys, when we have porn, when we have these images in mind and so forth, we still don't learn how to actually connect. And I remember, and that's now a bit embarrassing to share, but I think at the age of 16, 17, I had a first girlfriend, so to say. Like, didn't work out for very long, and then we were at her place, and I really felt like wanting to touch her breast, but I had no clue how to do that. So I kind of like did this and kind of, and she obviously didn't like it, and the relationship didn't last long. So at some point I tried calling her, but then she wouldn't pick up, and then my older sister kind of just explained to me that,
What you did. Yeah.
it has ended.
Yeah.
But then my greatest teacher was then the first love that I had, like the first real love. She was 1.5 years older than me. And when we first started dating and kind of fell in love, there was one thing that she revealed when we started becoming intimate. We didn't have sex, but kind of just, spending time. And I think this is one thing to all parents out there. Allow your kids to have that partner over. I know it's a taboo, but rather let your child have the first sensual experiences in a safe space rather than in the backseat of a car or behind the bushes or wherever.
Yes.
Because that's just hush hush, let's quickly do this. But if you allow that space, there's just a sensuality, sensing and not that sex. Anyhow, so she then shared with me that she actually was sexually abused by her piano teacher over 3 years when she was between 10 and 12 years old. And that she really, having sex is a real big thing for her, and it's not so easy because of that experience.
Yeah.
And actually that led us to really taking 3 months time before we actually crossed that line. And I kind of was like, okay, then you tell me when you're ready. And we did all kinds of other things before that. And I feel that taught me so much about sensuality, what is there besides the just do this.
Yeah. And the different forms of intimacy which you've also mentioned with
exactly.
the massage.
So that's what I meant with, yes, porn is one source, and it's not really it's very exciting and all of that. But there's so much more if you come into real encounters, and I'm sharing this now to just highlight that we don't really have much teachings around real, how do you sensually connect? Do we have that with our partners and so forth? I'm married now also for over 10 years. And there is really something really beautiful in just cuddling next to one another, or the smell of the other person just next to you, and where you feel like, wow, there is that connection. So I think that's where I feel there is little teaching in society, or little opportunity for young boys or girls for that matter, to learn how to connect sensually, sexually.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Adriano, but I will have to connect some words to that.
Yeah.
Because you see, as he speaks, you realize many things why we have a broken society, why we have broken homes, broken relationships.
Yeah.
Because we don't have this, we did not learn, or we were not exposed yet to this type of circumstances, and then that's why you find people who are not committed. Commitment comes from such experiences. Commitment comes from such understanding. Sometimes I don't need to experience that to understand the importance of commitment, and it's only with commitment that that you have other elements also, because it goes down to the umbrella, which is about respect.
Yeah.
And that respect, it's where you have all this commitment, loyalties, and all these other good elements that keeps a relationship together. We don't have that today, and it goes back to sexual objectification, because if there is a trophy, if there is a trophy, I can compete in any other competition.
Yeah.
After all, they are just trophies.
Absolutely.
So why should I be committed to this one trophy? I don't want one trophy.
Exactly.
I want more trophies.
And there is such
I
a
want-
norm,
I
especially
want
with
to
young
be-
boys.
Yes, I
Exactly.
want to show that I'm a man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even bringing that back to just quick to the sexual interaction you have then
Yes.
with that person,
Yes.
that you kind of, there was a funny German movie where you had a scene where there was like, they were having sex and he was looking into the mirror doing that, and he was kind of like having sex with that woman, but kind of looking at himself
Self
kind of
in the
like,
mirror.
oh, I'm doing well. I performed. I'm like, yeah. And this kind of like really is one of the dangers in this objectification, is we don't
Yes.
care about the other person.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
There's
they're
no
doing.
care.
There's no
Yes.
care, absolutely.
Yes.
I love what you've mentioned now, Ben, and especially around, creating safe spaces, and maybe to add on to that. Now, leads me into our next question, and I think it's so imperative with sexual objectification of women. And I'm going to ask you, James, what has made you stop, or what has propelled you to stop, and what are some of the steps you took to stop sexually objectifying women?
I once, and quite interestingly, I've never, since childhood, teenage years, varsity years, I'd never once paused to stop to think about, the different roles that women occupy in our society, other than the fact that they were merely seen as sex objects.
Yeah.
And I think, I once had a conversation in a group setting, and the words that struck at my very core was when someone told me that, the person you are objectifying, or the person that you are sexually harassing,
Yeah.
if you look at that person, that woman there, she could be someone's mother. She could be someone's aunt. She could be someone's daughter. She could be someone's niece, someone's cousins.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think in the first episode, I come from a matriarchal family, so we have, a lot of powerful women in our society. So I thought about them, and the thought that they would be going through these experiences, especially my younger sister, it hit the core with me. And immediately I was then able to realize that I wouldn't want my sister to experience the things that I am doing and thinking about other women. And also at some point I realized that, I was a serial monogamist, and I was also engaged in multiple concurrent sexual relationships, all to try and sort of meet that sexual desire that I had. And I like what Ben said, that, perhaps it wasn't even a sexual need that I had. It was just the fact that I was really yearning for intimacy.
Yeah.
And I like the analogy that intimacy doesn't have to be, a penetrative sex. There are different ways in which a person can explore intimacy.
Absolutely.
And I started questioning myself. And I think the question I asked myself was, should I decide one day to get married, will I really be able to have a meaningful relationship outside of sex with my partner?
Yeah.
Because I know that if the relationship is predominantly or purely just about sex, surely that relationship will not be sustained. And I became worried at the level of relationships that I was having with other women, even with friends. That the minute I have a friend who's of the opposite sex, the idea was, how long can I endure with this friendship? And even though she's in a relationship, can I sit on the sidelines until she goes through a breakup or some disappointment in her life, and then I play on her vulnerability so that I can get the opportunity to have sex with her.
As opposed to just appreciating the friendship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then to realize, but this is another human being. It's a human being. She's a human being that has these many wonderful ideas.
Yeah.
She's funny. She's caring. She's genuine. You know, we can relate on so many different aspects, and I can learn so much from her. And it's a wonderful person to have a friendship with.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of my motivations that drove me from, going through a process of sexual objectifying women to actually learning to see women as human beings.
Yeah.
See a woman the way that you would want to have yourself seen.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to just be seen as some kind of a
Sexual object.
sex object.
Yeah.
You would want a person to realize and to actually you venture on a journey to get to know who is the James that's inside this body.
Yeah.
And I think that for me brings about the depth of the quality in terms of the relationships that we have. And I think men have been scarred because for the longest time we're taught that we cannot relate to women at that level of depth.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're being intimate right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Abisai, very quick,
Yes.
short and sweet. Last
Yeah.
words for you.
Yeah,
So
thank
especially men, to stop objectifying women. Very short and sweet.
Yes, no, thank you very much. Look, for my last words, I would want to touch on a broad point, but I want to make it narrow. And that is all men who are listening to us right now. What is important is for them to understand that the culture that we as men have been conducting ourselves towards women sexually.
Yeah.
It's sexual objectification, and it is discrimination. It is disrespectful. It shows lack of appreciation, and there are so many negative words I could put there, but I want to bring it into the context of realization that sexual objectification, I want to bring it in the context of interpreting gender equality.
Yeah.
Gender equality simply means about equality in rights between of both men and women.
Yeah.
And when you talk about this equalities in rights, you are talking about many things, opportunities in life, and all this, be it in leadership,
Yeah.
be it in employment, be it in education, be it in ownership of property,
Yeah.
or enjoyment of life in general.
Absolutely.
So on that basis, discrimination comes in there, because if I can give you an example, and I hope all men, especially those men who are in positions in companies, whether public or private, they should realize that because of sexual objectification of women, women are discriminated on the basis of development. Develop being that if I'm to promote James, say for example we are in the police force, to give him an inspector rank, I will give it to him. He's my fellow man. But for another, for a female, for example, for me to give her that rank, I would want to have sex with her before I can promote her. Be it maybe for me to make her a manager, I would want something sexually with her.
Yeah.
For me, so at the end of the day, it sabotages the progress and development of women, with which we are saying all people have equal rights to grow.
Absolutely.
So, but now women are not actually excelling in these areas because of sexual objectification.
Abisai,
Men
thank you
want
so much
things
for that one.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
James, very short and sweet. Last words from you.
I just think, my message for men out there would be that we as men are limiting ourselves. And that for as long as you allow, your mind to constantly sexual objectify women.
Yes.
If you can't see women outside of their bodies, it is limiting your ability to have a meaningful, healthy way of relating to women.
Yeah.
And it will definitely have an impact on your ability to have healthy, intimate relationships.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I would even go the further step that if, when we talk about sexual violence. And then, when I say sexual violence, I'm talking about sexual harassment. I'm talking about rape. And I would put a bold statement out there that men who allow themselves to only see women for their outward appearance, or men who only see women as sexual objects, they would be at an increased likelihood to become perpetrators of sexual violence. So there's an increased likelihood for them to become rapists. There's an increased likelihood for them to be the type of men who catcall women, who sexually harass women, who have no regard for women at all. And I think the big focus for us would be, as a man, think about the woman out there that you are sexually objectifying as someone meaningful in someone else's life. That could be it could be someone's mother. Would you want your mother to be sexually objectified? It could be someone's aunt. Would you want someone to sexually objectify your aunt? It could be
Your
someone's sister. Do you want someone to sexually objectify your sister?
daughter.
It could be your daughter. Do you want someone to sexually objectify your daughter? No, I don't think so. Then don't do it.
Thank you so much for that, James. Ben, last words from you?
I think that it's a process. I'm just sitting here realizing I'm 43 years old. I had a lot of learnings in the past, and I'm realizing as I'm listening to James what you just said now, and Abisai, and you, that I'm asking myself, how much am I really living fully what I'm saying, or what we are saying now? So it is a process, and I think I said last time that we are living in a society around the globe of thousands of years of male-dominated culture. So none of us sitting here is perfect, and I'm realizing that for myself, that it is still a process, and some of the things I'm saying here, I still need to incorporate much more in my life and expand spaces of intimacy and see where I can take off some of the masks that I've been taught to wear and become more vulnerable, become more intimate, because it ultimately really says what James said, creates a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
And that's so good for me.
Yeah.
So there's a very egoistic reason why we should stop as men objectifying women, because it's at the end of the day not good for us.
Thank you so much for that, Ben. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this panel. And as Ben has said, it's a process. As men, if you want to become vulnerable, if you want to have a healthy relationship, make sure that you get to visit our page right here. It's Regain Trust, where you can also get in touch with a counselor. The help is there to seek. Also, simply just ask a friend. You can even get in touch with the gentleman on the panel as well, where they can assist you as well. Thank you so much to Regain Trust. Thank you so much to Men Engage Men Namibia Network, as well as the United Nations Population Fund. My name is Adriano Fisachi. Until next time.